The call came at 3 a.m. Beijing time. No warning. On December 1st, 2018, Meng Wanzhou stepped off a Cathay Pacific flight at Vancouver International Airport, transferring to Mexico. She never made it. RCMP officers arrested her at the gate. The warrant had been issued by the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York. Bank fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy. The Justice Department alleged Meng misled HSBC about Huawei's relationship with Skycom, a company operating in Iran violating American sanctions. But here's what neither Beijing nor Washington wants you to know. Meng wasn't arrested because she broke some universal law. She was arrested because the US claims jurisdiction over dollar transactions cleared through New York. Yet, a Canadian court, acting on an American warrant, put the daughter of one of China's richest men under house arrest for nearly 3 years. Think about that. A Chinese citizen arrested in Canada for conduct in Hong Kong related to a British bank because the money touched a computer in Manhattan. 10 days later, Chinese state security grabbed 2 Canadians off the street in Beijing. Michael Kovrig, a diplomat, Michael Spavor, a consultant. They were charged with espionage. Their trials lasted minutes. The lights in their cells stayed on 24 hours a day. They were interrogated for up to 8 hours daily for 1,019 days. Beijing called this national security. The timing calls it hostage diplomacy. The myth that one side upholds justice while the other traffics in bargaining chips. The truth shatters both narratives. The Justice Department's indictment alleges Meng misled HSBC, but documents defense obtained show the bank already knew. The deck the US submitted was missing slides 6 and 16. Associate Chief Justice Heather Holmes ruled in October 2020 that there was an air of reality to Meng's allegations of US misconduct. John Bellinger filed an affidavit supporting her defense. The US prosecution wasn't about protecting HSBC. The bank had already paid $1.9 billion for its own violations. The bank got a deferred prosecution, Meng got an extradition request. Now flip the telescope. Beijing's narrative is equally manufactured. They spent 3 years insisting the 2 Michaels cases had no connection to Meng's detention. The timeline demolishes this fiction. Meng arrested December 1st. The Michaels detained December 10th. Neither man was under investigation before Meng's arrest. A redacted CSIS report reveals Canadian intelligence knew the FBI was coordinating with the RCMP. The CSIS note called the arrest highly political. On September 24, 2021, Meng signed her agreement. Hours later, she was on a plane. Within the same hour, Kovrig and Spavor were released. The flight home took off shortly after Meng's. China had always denied the link. The simultaneity stripped away the pretense. Even the fig leaf that Beijing doesn't detain people for retaliatory purposes was removed. The myth that survived the exchange is that US export controls crippled Huawei. That Washington siege forced the giant to its knees. The numbers tell a different story. Huawei's revenue has grown for 4 consecutive years since its trough. Its smartphone business reclaimed the #1 spot in China in 2024, beating Apple. The Mate 60 series, featuring a domestically produced advanced processor, surprised analysts and US officials alike. Huawei is pouring money into software and manufacturing tools. But here's what the twist. The sanctions also forced American companies to lose one of their biggest customers. Sales for Qualcomm, Intel, and Google evaporated. The chip controls, they did slow China, but they didn't stop it. SMIC saw revenue drop and YMTC laid off workers. Nvidia prices tripled, but China's drive for self-sufficiency began long before. Beijing didn't start building chips because Washington blocked them. They started because they never intended to rely on Washington. The drive started in 2014, long before the controls. A 2025 study found China achieved strong performance in high-speed rail. Memory chip self-sufficiency rose to 15%. SMIC produced 7-nanometer chips bypassing band technology. So the truth is messier than either government admits. The controls hurt both sides. They cost American market share and Chinese time. They didn't deliver the knockout blow. But then there's the human cost. Michael Spavor spent 1,019 days in custody. He later sued the Canadian government for $7 million, claiming Kovrig unwittingly passing info. The Americans paid nothing. The Chinese paid nothing. The Canadians paid $7 million and 3 years of crisis. Great powers fight. The Allies absorbed the shrapnel. In Shenzhen, a Huawei engineer rebuilt entire workflows using domestic alternatives. He worked 80-hour weeks. He knows he hasn't seen his daughter's school play in 3 years. In Iowa, a soybean farmer supporting tariffs lost $140,000. He thought China was paying. The receipts show Dave was paying. Tariff revenue cost consumers $1.5 billion. Each event generated headlines about great power competition, but both narratives omit the reality. A bifurcated technology market where innovation slows and costs rise. What neither government admits is the interdependence. The US needs Chinese rare earths. China needs American equipment. It is not a bug, it is the architecture of the modern economy. Both sides are locked in an escalatory cycle. Beijing will not stop. The US entity list will not shrink. But the circularity is the point. Both governments need the tension. Washington needs an adversary to justify spending. Beijing needs a threat to rally support. The conflict is real, but the incentives to resolve it are buried. The truth is, both governments need each other. It is theater performed on a stage built by mutual dependence. The audience pays for the tickets, the actors collect the box office. Should Washington and Beijing find a way to coexist, or is this just the opening act of something much worse? You decide, but read the files first.